Earth was dying. Not slowly, not over centuries, but right now. The Vralth Empire had come from the stars with weapons that turned entire cities into glass, and ships that blotted out the sun. Humanity had fought back with everything they had, but it wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. Captain Li Taiyang stood on the bridge of his ship, the horizon's edge, and watched the holographic display showing Earth's remaining defense fleet. 3 years ago, humanity had over 200 warships. Now they had 17. The mathematics of extinction were simple and cruel. "Captain, we're receiving the distress signal from New Sol Colony," said Kang Mira from the pilot station. Her voice was steady, but Taiyang could see the tension in her shoulders. "They're requesting immediate evacuation. The Vralth will reach them in 6 hours." Taiyang closed his eyes. New Sol had 50,000 people. His ship could maybe save 500 if they pushed life support to the breaking point. These choices were killing him faster than any weapon could. "Set course for New Sol," he said quietly. "Tell them we're coming." Park Jinu, the chief engineer, looked up from his console. His face was smudged with grease from another emergency repair. "Captain, if we divert to New Sol, we'll miss the rendezvous with the fleet. Admiral Kim won't be happy." "The Admiral can complain to me personally," Taiyang replied. "Those are our people, Jinu. We don't leave them behind." The ship turned, and Taiyang felt the familiar weight of command pressing down on his chest. He was 32 years old, and he felt ancient. Every decision meant choosing who lived and who died. Every day brought humanity closer to the edge of the abyss. After the rescue mission, after cramming his ship with terrified colonists and outrunning Vralth fighters by the narrowest of margins, Taiyang returned to fleet headquarters on Mars. What remained of Earth's government was there, hiding in underground bunkers while the surface burned. Admiral Kim Doyen met him in the command center. The old man looked tired, his uniform hanging loose on a frame that had lost too much weight. "Taiyang, good work at New Sol, but we need to talk." They walked to a secure briefing room. Inside, several other officers waited, including Commander Choi Hana from the Medical Corps. She gave Taiyang a small nod. They'd served together for 5 years, and she was one of the few people who understood the weight he carried. Admiral Kim activated a holographic projector. An image appeared of a planet Taiyang didn't recognize. It was beautiful, with rings of ice and cities that glowed like jewels against the dark side. "This is Velanthra," Admiral Kim said, "homeworld of the Ilithara sovereignty. Have you heard of them?" Taiyang searched his memory. "Isolationists. They've been around for thousands of years but never get involved in galactic politics. They're supposed to have incredible technology, but nobody knows for sure because they don't trade or communicate with outsiders." "Exactly," Admiral Kim said. "Our intelligence suggests that the Ilithara could defeat the Vralth Empire easily if they chose to. Their weapons are centuries beyond anything else in the galaxy, but they've refused every attempt at contact. So why are we talking about them?" Admiral Kim smiled grimly. "Because you're going to convince them to help us." Taiyang stared at the Admiral. "Sir, with respect, if they've refused everyone else, what makes you think I can convince them?" "Because you're the best we have," Commander Choi said. "You've negotiated with 12 different alien species. You saved the Centauri delegation from that Vralth ambush, and they still remember it. If anyone can make the Ilithara listen, it's you." Taiyang looked at the image of Velanthra. It seemed like a beautiful dream, too good to be real. "What do we know about their leader?" "Her name is Queen Erin," Admiral Kim said. "She's ruled the Ilithara for over 300 years. That's all we know. Everything else is rumor and speculation." 300 years, Taiyang repeated. "How is that possible?" "We don't know. The Ilithara are different from us in ways we don't understand. But that's your mission, Captain. Get to Velanthra, convince Queen Erin to meet with you, and somehow persuade her to save humanity." The weight of it settled on Taiyang's shoulders like a physical thing. The entire human species depending on him to pull off a miracle. "When do I leave?" "Tomorrow," Admiral Kim said. "You'll take the horizon's edge and a small crew?" "We can't spare more than that. The route to Velanthra goes through Vralth-controlled space. You'll have to be careful, fast, and lucky." That night, Taiyang couldn't sleep. He stood in the observation deck of the horizon's edge, looking out at Mars and the distant stars. Earth was visible too, a blue marble wrapped in the gray smoke of burning cities. Kang Mira found him there. She'd been his pilot for 3 years, and she could read his moods better than anyone. "Can't sleep either?" "Too much to think about," Taiyang admitted. This mission is insane, Mira. We're flying into unknown space to ask for help from aliens who've rejected everyone else. The chances we'll even reach Valanthra are maybe 50-50, and if we do, the chances they'll listen to us are basically zero. So basically a normal Tuesday for us, Mira said with a slight smile. Captain, I've followed you through every impossible situation for 3 years. You've never let us down. If anyone can do this, you can. Taeyang wanted to believe her, but doubt was a cold thing in his chest. What if I can't? What if we fail and Earth falls while we're gone? Then at least we tried, Mira said simply. That's all we can do. Try our best and hope it's enough. The next morning, the Horizon's Edge departed Mars with a crew of 12. Besides Taeyang, Mira, Jinu, and Hana, there were 8 others who had volunteered for what everyone knew was probably a suicide mission. They were the best humanity had, and they were flying into the unknown with nothing but hope and determination. The journey to Valanthra took 2 weeks. They avoided Vralth patrols 3 times, using every trick Mira knew to keep them off the sensors. They passed through nebulae and asteroid fields, pushed the engines to their limits, and survived on emergency rations to conserve supplies. When they finally emerged from jump space near Valanthra, Taeyang felt his breath catch. The planet was even more beautiful than the hologram had shown. The rings glowed with inner light, and the cities visible from orbit looked like works of art rather than simple settlements. We're being scanned, Jinu reported. Multiple sources. Their technology is incredible, Captain. I've never seen anything like it. Open a channel, Taeyang ordered. His heart was pounding. Everything depended on the next few minutes. A voice came through the speakers, speaking in perfect English, though with an odd musical quality. Unknown vessel, you have entered Illithera space. State your purpose. Taeyang took a deep breath. My name is Captain Li Taeyang of Earth. I come on behalf of humanity to request an audience with Queen Aran. We need help. Our people are dying and we have nowhere else to turn. There was a long silence. Then the voice spoke again. You will be escorted to the surface. Any deviation from the prescribed course will result in immediate destruction. Is this understood? Understood, Taeyang said. And thank you. As Illithara ships surrounded them, beautiful and deadly, Taeyang knew there was no turning back. They were committed now. All he could do was hope that Queen Aran would listen, that somehow he could find the words to save his species. The fate of humanity rested on the shoulders of one man and his tiny crew, approaching an alien world that held the key to their survival. The throne room was packed with Illithara nobility and officials. Word had spread that Queen Aran was going to make an announcement about the human visitors, and everyone wanted to witness it. Taeyang stood in the center of the chamber with his crew behind him, feeling the weight of hundreds of alien eyes watching his every move. Queen Aran sat on her throne, regal and distant in a way she hadn't been during their private conversations. This was the public face of a ruler who had led her people for 3 centuries. Taeyang barely recognized her. Captain Li Taeyang of Earth, Queen Aran said, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. You have completed the 3 trials I set before you. You have demonstrated wisdom in diplomacy, courage in adversity, and compassion in impossible choices. You have proven that humanity possesses qualities worth respecting. Hope surged in Taeyang's chest. This was it. This was the moment everything had been building toward. Therefore, Queen Aran continued, I have decided to grant you one wish. Anything within my power to give you may ask for, and I will grant it. She leaned forward slightly. Choose carefully, Captain. This offer will not come again. The throne room erupted in whispers. This was unprecedented. Even Taeyang's crew looked shocked. Hana grabbed his arm, her eyes wide with excitement and urgency. Taeyang's mind raced. This was it. He could ask for weapons to fight the Vralth. He could ask for Illithera technology to upgrade Earth's defenses. He could ask for a military alliance, for ships, for anything that would save his people. He opened his mouth to speak, then stopped. The past weeks flashed through his mind. All those conversations with Queen Aran. The way she'd smiled when he'd made her laugh with a story about his childhood. The vulnerability in her eyes when she'd talked about the loneliness of leadership. The connection he'd felt growing between them. Something that went beyond politics or strategy. He thought about all the impossible choices he'd made during the war. All the times he'd sacrificed his own wants for the greater good. All the pieces of himself he'd given up to be the perfect soldier. The perfect leader, the perfect weapon against humanity's enemies. And he realized something. If he asked for weapons or technology or an alliance, he'd get them. Queen Erin would keep her word. But it would be a transaction, nothing more. She would help because she'd promised to, not because she wanted to. But what if there was another way? Taeyang looked at Queen Erin, really looked at her. Behind the regal mask, he saw the woman he'd come to know. The one who'd shown him her gardens and talked about the burden of immortality. The one who'd challenged him to be better than he thought he could be. The entire throne room was silent, waiting. His crew was tense, knowing that Earth's fate hung on his next words. Every rational part of Taeyang's mind screamed at him to ask for military help, to be smart, to be strategic. Instead, he followed his heart. "Your Majesty," Taeyang said, his voice steady and clear. "I choose you." The silence that followed was absolute. Taeyang could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. "I don't want weapons or technology or a military alliance," he continued, stepping forward. "Those things are temporary. They'd save us for now. But they wouldn't change anything fundamental. What I want is something real, something lasting." He met Queen Erin's eyes, and she stared back at him with an expression he couldn't read. "These past weeks I've gotten to know you. Not as a queen, not as someone who could save my people, but as a person. You're brilliant and strong and kind. You're lonely and you hide it behind duty. You make me want to be better than I am." Mira grabbed his shoulder from behind, her voice urgent, and whispered, "Captain, what are you doing?" Taeyang ignored her. He kept his eyes on Queen Erin. "I'm choosing you because you matter to me. Because in all my life of fighting and sacrificing and leading, I've never felt what I feel when I'm with you. I'm choosing you because if I'm going to make a wish, I want it to be honest. I want it to be real." Queen Erin's face had gone completely still. Her silver eyes were wide with shock. "I'm not asking you to marry me," Taeyang said quickly. "I'm not demanding anything. I'm just saying that what I want, what I truly desire, is to know you better, to stand beside you not as a supplicant or a stranger, but as someone you might care about. If you'll have me." The throne room exploded with noise. Eletheric courtiers shouted in their musical language, some sounding outraged, others shocked. Taeyang's crew was in chaos behind him. He heard Jinu cursing, heard Hana trying to calm everyone down. But Taeyang only watched Queen Erin. She stood up slowly from her throne. Her hands were shaking slightly, and Taeyang realized with shock that he'd managed to surprise someone who'd lived for 300 years. She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. "You," she started, then stopped. "You chose me?" "Yes," Taeyang said simply. "Not weapons, not technology, not an alliance to save your entire species. I chose you," Taeyang repeated. "Earth can burn for all I care right now. I'm tired of making the practical choice. I'm tired of being strategic. For once in my life, I'm choosing what I actually want, and what I want is you." Queen Erin took a step toward him, then another. The throne room had gone quiet again, everyone watching this impossible moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Do you have any idea what you've just done? What you've just given up?" "I know exactly what I've done," Taeyang said. "I've told the truth. I've been honest for the first time since I became a soldier. And if that means I've failed my mission, if that means humanity falls because I was selfish for once, then I'll live with that." A single tear ran down Queen Erin's face. In 300 years, no one had ever chosen her for herself. Everyone who'd ever come before her throne had wanted something from her crown, her power, her influence. Not one person had looked past the queen to see the woman beneath. Until now. "You're insane," she whispered. "You've just traded the survival of your entire species for a chance at something that might not even be possible. We're from different worlds, different species. I'll live for thousands of years and you'll be gone in decades. This can't work." "Maybe," Taeyang agreed, "but it's real. And right now, that matters more to me than anything else." Queen Erin stared at him for a long moment. Then, without warning, she turned and fled from the throne room. Her advisors rushed after her, leaving chaos behind. Mira grabbed Taeyang's arm hard enough to hurt. "Captain, do you realize what you just did? You threw away our only chance to save Earth." "I know," Taeyang said quietly. He felt strangely calm, like a great weight had lifted from his shoulders. For years, he'd carried the burden of humanity's survival. He'd made impossible choices and lived with the guilt. But for once, he'd done something purely for himself. It felt like breathing after being underwater. "You know?" Mira's voice rose. "You know, and you did it anyway? Billions of people are going to die, Taeyang." "Maybe," Taeyang said. "Or maybe this is the only way to save them. We came here asking for help from someone who's rejected everyone else. Why would she say yes to us? Because we asked nicely? Because we're desperate? He shook his head. No. The only way she'd truly help is if she wanted to, if she cared. And the only way to make her care was to show her that we care about more than just survival, that we're capable of choosing connection over pragmatism. Hana stepped forward. That's one hell of a gamble, Captain. I know, Taeyang said. But it's the only one I've got. Lord Vaith, Queen Erin's chief advisor, approached them with 2 guards. His face was stern. You humans will wait here. The Queen needs time to consider what has happened. Do not leave this chamber. They waited for hours. Taeyang sat on the crystal floor while his crew paced and argued among themselves. Some thought he'd done the right thing. Others thought he'd doomed humanity. Taeyang didn't know what to think anymore. He'd followed his heart, and now all he could do was wait to see if it had been the right choice. Finally, as Valanthra's sun was setting and the rings above glowed with reflected light, Queen Arin returned. She looked composed again, though her eyes were red as if she'd been crying. Captain Li Taeyang, she said formally, you have made a choice that I never anticipated. In 300 years of rule, no one has ever done what you did today. I'm sorry if I offended you, Taeyang said, standing. That wasn't my intention. Offended? Queen Arin laughed, and it sounded almost broken. No, Captain. I'm not offended. I'm terrified, because for the first time in centuries, someone has made me feel something I thought was dead, and I don't know what to do with that. She took a breath, composing herself. You will have my answer tomorrow. I need to think, to consult with my advisors to understand what this means. But know this. Whatever I decide, you have already changed something fundamental. You've reminded me what it means to be seen as a person, not a throne, and I thank you for that. She turned and left again, leaving Taeyang standing in the throne room with his heart in his throat and the fate of 2 species hanging in the balance. The landing platform was made of something that looked like crystal, but felt solid as steel under Taeyang's boots. All around him, Valanthra's capital city stretched toward the sky in towers of light and grace. Everything was beautiful here, from the architecture to the air itself, which smelled like flowers he couldn't name. 2 Illithera guards waited for them. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that seemed to shimmer with its own light. Their faces were humanoid but refined, almost too perfect. They wore armor that looked ceremonial, but Taeyang suspected was far more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. Captain Li Taeyang, one of them said, you will come with us. Your crew will remain here. My medical officer should come with me, Taeyang said, gesturing to Hana, in case there are any health issues from the meeting. The guard considered this, then nodded. Acceptable. The rest stay. Mira gave Taeyang a worried look but said nothing. He'd briefed them all before landing. If this went wrong, if he didn't come back, they were to return to Earth and report everything they'd learned. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was all they had. The guards led Taeyang and Hana through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. The walls showed images of stars and distant worlds, and Taeyang realized they were moving through some kind of dimensional space. What looked like a short walk was covering miles. Finally, they emerged into a chamber so vast that Taeyang couldn't see the ceiling. The walls were transparent, showing the planet's rings above and the glowing city below. In the center of the chamber, on a throne that seemed to be carved from a single piece of starlight, sat Queen Arin. Taeyang had tried to prepare himself, but nothing could have prepared him for this. Queen Arin was breathtaking. She looked young, perhaps 25 in human years, but her silver eyes held the weight of centuries. Her skin was pale, almost luminescent, and her hair fell in waves of midnight black. She wore simple robes of white that somehow seemed more regal than any crown. Captain Li Taeyang of Earth, Queen Arin said. Her voice was like music, but there was steel underneath. You have come a long way to stand before me. Speak, and I will listen. Taeyang stepped forward. He'd rehearsed this speech 100 times, but now all his careful words vanished. He spoke from the heart instead. Your Majesty, my people are dying. The Vralth Empire is destroying Earth, and we cannot stop them. We've fought with everything we have, but our technology is too primitive, our weapons too weak. In a few months, maybe less, humanity will be extinct. He paused, meeting her ancient eyes. I know you don't involve yourself in galactic conflicts. I know you've refused help to others before, but I'm begging you to make an exception. Please help us. Queen Arin studied him for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. Why should I care about humanity, Captain? The galaxy is full of species fighting and dying. What makes your people special? The question hit Taeyang like a punch, but he forced himself to answer honestly. Maybe nothing makes us special. We're young, we're primitive, we make mistakes. But we're trying to be better. We reach for the stars not to conquer, but to explore. We build art and music and literature. We love, we hope, we dream. His voice grew stronger. We deserve a chance to grow, to become something more. Please don't let us disappear before we've had that chance. Something flickered in Queen Erin's eyes. Interest, maybe, or curiosity. You speak well, Captain. But words are easy. I need proof that humanity is worth saving. I will give you a test. 3 trials that will show me what your species truly is. Complete them and I will consider your request. Fail, and you will return to Earth empty-handed. I accept, Taeyang said without hesitation. What are the trials? You will learn soon enough, Queen Erin said. Rest tonight. Tomorrow the first trial begins. The guards led them to quarters that were more luxurious than anything Taeyang had ever seen. Hana checked him over with her medical scanner and frowned. Your stress levels are through the roof, she said. You need to rest, Captain. I can't rest, Taeyang said, pacing the room. Too much is riding on this. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? You are good enough, Hana said firmly. You've always been good enough. Now sit down and let me give you something to help you sleep. You'll need your strength tomorrow. The first trial came at dawn. Taeyang was brought to a diplomatic chamber where 3 alien ambassadors waited. They represented species that had grievances with humanity, minor conflicts from humanity's early days of space exploration. Your task is simple, Queen Erin said. She sat on a smaller throne watching. Resolve their complaints. Show me that humans can make peace, not just war. The negotiations were brutal. The first ambassador, from a species called the Court, demanded reparations for a colony ship that had accidentally entered their space 15 years ago. The second wanted apologies for trade disputes. The third claimed humans had stolen mining rights to an asteroid field. Taeyang listened to each complaint carefully. Some were legitimate. Some were exaggerated. All of them were testing him. He spent hours talking, negotiating, finding common ground. He admitted where humans had been wrong. He offered compromises. He reminded them that humanity was young and learning. Slowly, grudgingly, the ambassadors began to soften. By the end of the day, he'd reached agreements with all 3. Nothing was perfect, but it was fair. Queen Erin nodded slowly, and Taeyang saw approval in her eyes. You passed the first trial, she said. You have shown wisdom and humility. The second trial was physical. Taeyang was brought to an arena where Valanthra's lighter gravity made movement strange and difficult. He had to cross obstacles, climb walls, and reach a beacon on the far side. It was exhausting. His muscles screamed. The gravity threw off his balance. But Taeyang had learned long ago that success wasn't about being the strongest or the fastest. It was about refusing to quit. He fell twice. The second time, he thought he couldn't get up. His body was done. But he thought about Earth, about all the people depending on him. And he forced himself to stand. Step by step, inch by inch, he crossed the arena. When he touched the beacon, Queen Erin was waiting. You passed the second trial, she said. You have shown determination and courage. The third trial was the hardest. Taeyang woke in a simulation that felt completely real. He was back on his ship and they were under attack. Routh fighters swarmed around them. Mira was injured. Jinnu was trying to keep the engines running. And Taeyang had a choice. A civilian transport was nearby, crippled and calling for help. Taeyang could save them, but it would mean exposing his ship to enemy fire. His mission to Valanthra would fail. Or he could leave them and complete his mission to save all of humanity. The choice tore at him. Save a few hundred people now, or potentially save billions later. It was the kind of impossible decision he'd faced too many times in the war. But Taeyang realized something. Queen Erin wasn't testing whether he would sacrifice others for the greater good. She was testing whether he would remain human under pressure, whether he would hold on to his values even when they cost him everything. Mira, change course, he said in the simulation. We're saving those people. The simulation ended. Taeyang found himself back in the throne room, breathing hard. Queen Erin stood before him, and for the first time she was smiling. You passed the third trial, she said softly. I offered you a choice between pragmatism and compassion, and you chose compassion. You chose to stay human, even knowing it might doom your mission. She stepped closer. Tell me, Captain, why? Taeyang met her eyes. Because if I have to stop being human to save humanity, then what's the point? We're not worth saving if we lose everything that makes us who we are. Queen Erin was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was thoughtful. You are not what I expected, Captain Lee Taeyang. Walk with me. I would speak with you more. They walked through gardens that grew under Valanthra's rings, and Queen Erin asked him questions about Earth, about humanity, about his life. Taeyang answered honestly, and found himself asking questions in return. She told him about Illithera history, about the ancient wars they'd fought and won, about the decision to become isolationists. We learned that involvement brings pain, she said. Better to remain apart to protect our own. But doesn't that get lonely? Taeyang asked. Being apart from everyone? Queen Erin looked at him with those ancient silver eyes. Yes, she admitted. It does. Over the next few days, they talked often. Between formal meetings with her advisors and court, Queen Erin would send for Taeyang. They discussed philosophy, leadership, the nature of responsibility. Taeyang found himself drawn to her not just for her power but for her mind, her wisdom, her unexpected vulnerability. He was starting to feel something he hadn't felt in years, something that had no place in a mission to save his species, but he couldn't deny it, couldn't pretend it wasn't there. He was falling for an alien queen who held humanity's fate in her hands. Queen Erin stood alone in her private chambers, staring out at the rings of Valanthra. Her hands trembled as she pressed them against the transparent wall. In 300 years, she'd never felt so shaken, so uncertain, so utterly unprepared. A human had chosen her. Not her crown, not her power, not what she could give him, her. The door chimed softly. Enter, Erin said without turning. Princess Lyra, her younger sister, stepped inside. Lyra was only 200 years old, considered young by Illithera standards. She had the same silver eyes as Erin, but a softer face, less weathered by the weight of leadership. The court is in chaos, Lyra said gently. Lord Vaith is demanding the humans be sent away immediately. Half the nobles think this Captain Taeyang insulted you. The other half thinks he's insane. She paused. What do you think? I don't know, Erin admitted. Her voice sounded small, vulnerable. Lyra, I don't know what to think. What to feel. Lyra moved to stand beside her. Tell me what happened. Not the public version. The real version. Erin closed her eyes. He chose me. When I offered him anything, any weapon or technology that could save his dying species, he looked at me and chose me instead. He said I mattered more than Earth's survival, that he was tired of being strategic and wanted to be honest for once. That's either the most romantic thing I've ever heard, or the most foolish, Lyra said. Both, Erin said. It's both, and that's what terrifies me. She turned to face her sister. For weeks I've been getting to know him. At first it was just curiosity. Humans are so young, so short-lived, so passionate. But Taeyang was different. He listened when I spoke. He challenged my ideas respectfully. He made me laugh. He saw through my role as queen to the person underneath. You care about him, Lyra said. It wasn't a question. I do, Erin whispered. And I shouldn't. He'll be dead in 50 years, maybe 60. I'll have barely aged while he turns to dust. Even if we tried to make something work between us, it would end in heartbreak. It always does. Lyra's expression softened with understanding. 300 years ago, Queen Erin had been married to Lord Kellen, the love of her life. He died in battle defending Valanthra from invaders. Erin had closed herself off after that, buried herself in duty, vowed never to feel that pain again. Is that why you became isolationist? Lyra asked gently. Not just for our people's safety, but for your own? Erin nodded slowly. If we don't get involved, if we stay apart, I never have to watch people I care about die. I never have to feel that loss again. But you're lonely, Lyra said. I've watched you for centuries, sister. You're powerful and respected and completely alone. Is that really better than risking pain? Before Erin could answer, another chime sounded. Lord Vaith entered without waiting for permission. He was ancient even by Illithara standards, nearly 500 years old, and tradition was everything to him. Your Majesty, he said, bowing stiffly, we must discuss this situation with the humans. This Captain Taeyang has made a mockery of your generous offer. He must be sent away immediately, before word of this spreads and damages our reputation. He made no mockery, Erin said coldly. He answered honestly when I asked him to choose. He wasted your offer on sentiment, Lord Vaith protested. His species is dying and he chose personal desire over their survival. It shows a fundamental lack of character of leadership. Humans are clearly too emotional, too unstable to be worth our help. Or perhaps, Lyra interjected, it shows that humans value connection more than survival, that they're capable of caring about individuals, not just species. Maybe that's exactly what makes them worth helping. Lord Vaith glared at the princess. This is not your concern, Princess Lyra. It is when you're trying to manipulate my sister, Lyra shot back. You've always pushed for complete isolation, Vaith. You'd have us hide here forever, never engaging with the galaxy. Maybe you're afraid that if we help the humans, it will show that connection isn't weakness. The argument escalated, with more advisors arriving and taking sides. Some supported Vaith's position that the humans should be dismissed. Others, mostly younger Illithera, argued that Captain Taeyang's choice showed remarkable courage and deserved respect. Aaron listened to them all argue about her life, her feelings, her choice. Finally, she'd had enough. Silence! Her voice cracked like thunder and everyone stopped talking. All of you leave now, except you, Vaith, you stay. The chamber emptied until only Aaron and her chief advisor remained. She faced him, her silver eyes hard. You were there, she said quietly. 300 years ago, when Kellen died, you held me while I screamed. You helped me pick up the pieces. You know what that loss did to me. Which is precisely why you must send the human away, Lord Vaith said, his voice softer now. Your Majesty, I serve you. I care about you. I don't want to see you hurt again. This human will die and you'll be left with that same pain. Better to avoid it entirely. Is it? Aaron asked. Is living without pain really living at all? Or is it just existing? She moved to the window again. Kellen used to say that love was worth any price. I didn't understand what he meant until after he was gone. Now I wonder if he was right. If refusing to feel anything is worse than risking heartbreak. The human has bewitched you, Lord Vaith said desperately. This isn't you thinking clearly. This is emotion clouding your judgment. Maybe, Aaron admitted. Or maybe I've been hiding behind duty for so long that I forgot what it means to want something for myself. She turned back to him. Tell me honestly, Vaith, if I send Captain Taeyang away, will I be making the right choice? Or will I regret it for the rest of my very long life? Lord Vaith was silent for a long moment. Finally, he sighed. I don't know, Your Majesty. I truly don't know. That night, Aaron couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Taeyang's face when he'd made his choice. The certainty in his voice, the way he'd risked everything for a chance at something real. She summoned him to her private garden in the early hours of morning, when the rings cast strange shadows across the flower beds. He came alone, looking tired but calm. Your crew is very angry with you, Aaron said as he approached. Your pilot in particular seems ready to murder you. Mira will get over it, Taeyang said. Or she won't. Either way, I stand by my choice. Why? Aaron asked. Help me understand, Captain. You could have saved your entire species. Instead, you chose me. Why would you do something so reckless? Taeyang was quiet for a moment, organizing his thoughts. Because I'm tired, he said finally. I'm tired of being a weapon, a tool, a means to an end. For years, I've made impossible choices. I've sacrificed my own wants for the greater good. I've watched friends die. I've ordered people to their deaths. I've carried the weight of humanity's survival on my shoulders until I thought I'd break. He stepped closer, and then I met you. And for the first time in years, I felt like a person again. Not a captain, not a soldier, just me. You saw me, Aaron. Not my rank, not my usefulness, just me. And I realized that if I walked away from that, if I chose strategy over honesty, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. But your people, Aaron protested. They need you. They're dying. They are, Taeyang agreed. And maybe my choice dooms them. Maybe I'm the most selfish person in the galaxy. But I looked at you standing on that throne and I realized something. If I asked for weapons and you gave them to me, it would be a transaction. You'd help because you promised to, not because you wanted to. And that kind of help wouldn't last. It wouldn't mean anything. He met her eyes. But if I chose you, if I was honest about what I actually wanted, maybe I could reach you. Not as a queen, but as a person. Maybe I could make you care enough to help not out of obligation, but because you wanted to. Because we mattered to you. Aaron felt tears on her face again. You took an enormous gamble. I did, Taeyang said. And I don't know if it paid off. But at least I was honest. At least I was real. That has to count for something. Aaron looked at this human who'd turned her world upside down, who'd made her feel things she'd sworn never to feel again, who'd reminded her what it meant to live instead of just exist. It counts for everything, she whispered. She reached out and took his hand. His skin was warm against her cooler touch. So different, yet somehow right. I need to think, she said. I need to understand what this means, what it could mean. This isn't just about us, Taeyang. This affects my entire kingdom, your entire species. I can't make this decision lightly. I understand, Taeyang said. Take all the time you need. But know this, Aaron continued, squeezing his hand. You've already changed something. You've made me feel alive again. And whatever I decide, I'll never forget that. The throne room was even more crowded than before. News of the human captain's choice had spread across Valanthra, and everyone wanted to witness Queen Erin's response. Taeyang stood in the center again, his crew beside him. Mira still wouldn't look at him directly, though her anger had cooled to disappointment. Queen Erin entered and the room fell silent. She looked different somehow, less distant. Her silver eyes found Taeyang immediately, and something passed between them. A connection that everyone in the room could feel. Captain Li Taeyang, Queen Erin said, her voice steady. You made a choice that shocked this court. You chose me over the survival of your species. Many here think you're a fool. Some think you're insane. A few think you're brave. She paused. I've spent 3 days thinking about what you did and what it means. I've consulted with my advisors, my sister, my own heart, and I've come to a decision. Taeyang's hands clenched at his sides. This was it. Everything depended on her next words. In 300 years of rule, Aaron continued, thousands have come before this throne. They've asked for weapons, for technology, for alliances. They've offered trade, resources, friendship. Every single one of them wanted something from me. They saw a queen, a tool to be used, a means to an end. Her voice softened. You were the first person to see me, just me. Not what I could give you, but who I am beneath the crown. She stood and walked down from her throne, approaching Taeyang. The court gasped. This was unprecedented. You asked me what I wanted, Aaron said, stopping in front of him. No one has asked me that in centuries. Everyone assumes I have everything I need. But I don't. I have power and respect and duty. What I don't have is connection. I don't have someone who sees me as more than my role. Tears glistened in her silver eyes. You gave up everything for a chance at something real. You chose honesty over strategy, and in doing so you showed me what humanity truly is. You're not just warriors or survivors. You're people who value connection more than life itself. That's what makes you worth saving. Taeyang's breath caught. Does that mean I will help humanity? Aaron announced, her voice ringing through the throne room. I will send the Illithera fleet to defend Earth from the Vralth Empire. We will share our technology, our knowledge, our strength, and we will do it not out of obligation, but because I choose to, because you made me care. The throne room erupted in chaos again, but Aaron raised her hand for silence. However, she continued, looking at Taeyang, there are conditions. You asked for me, and you will have me, but not in the way you might expect. You will remain here on Valanthra for 1 year. During that time, we will get to know each other truly, without the pressure of war or politics. We will discover if what we feel is real or just the intensity of desperate circumstances. And after that year? Taeyang asked. If we still choose each other, Aaron said softly, then we will face whatever comes together. The differences between our species, the gap in our lifespans, the challenges of uniting our worlds. We'll face all of it, but if either of us decides this won't work, you'll return to Earth with no hard feelings and the alliance between our people will remain. Lord Vaith stepped forward, his face troubled. Your Majesty, this is most irregular. The traditions kept us isolated and alone for centuries, Aaron interrupted. Perhaps it's time for new traditions. I am still your Queen, Vaith. I am still committed to protecting our people, but I'm also a person with my own needs and desires. I won't apologize for that. She turned back to Taeyang. What do you say, Captain? Will you accept my terms? Taeyang felt his heart racing. A year on Valanthra, getting to know Aaron without the weight of Earth's survival crushing him. It was more than he'd dared hope for. I accept, gladly. Then it's settled, Aaron said. She addressed the court. Prepare the fleet. We leave for Earth immediately. I will lead the defense personally. The next hours were a blur of activity, the Illithera military mobilized with stunning efficiency, Ships that had been dormant for decades powered up, their weapon systems far beyond anything Taiyang had seen. Soldiers who'd never seen real combat prepared for war with calm confidence. Mira found Taiyang in the quarters he'd been assigned. She looked conflicted, caught between relief and anger. "We're really going to save Earth," she said. "Because you gambled everything on a feeling." "I did," Taiyang admitted. "And I'd do it again." Mira shook her head. "You're insane. But you're also the bravest person I've ever known. Or the stupidest. Maybe both," she smiled slightly. "The crew is going with the fleet." "You're staying here?" "For a year," Taiyang said. "Make sure Earth knows what's happening. Tell them the Illithera are coming as friends, not conquerors. Tell them Captain Li Taiyang sends his regards." "I will," Mira promised. Then impulsively she hugged him. "Good luck, Captain. I hope she's worth it." "She is," Taiyang said with certainty. The Illithera fleet was magnificent. 200 warships, each one a masterpiece of technology and design. They moved through space like living things, graceful and deadly. Queen Erin's flagship, the Eternal Dawn, led the way. Taiyang stood on Volanthra's surface watching them go. Hana stayed beside him, having chosen to remain behind as a diplomatic liaison. "They'll make it in time?" Taiyang asked. "The Illithara have jump technology that makes ours look primitive," Hana assured him. "They'll reach Earth in 3 days, and when they arrive, the Vrolth are in for a shock." 3 days later, Taiyang was in the palace when the reports came through. He rushed to the command center where Queen Erin stood, watching holographic displays of the battle. It wasn't really a battle. It was a demonstration. The Illithara fleet emerged from jump space directly in Earth's orbit. Just as the Vrolth were beginning their final assault, the human ships, battered and desperate, suddenly found themselves reinforced by vessels that outclassed the Vrolth in every way. Queen Erin's voice transmitted to all ships, human and Vrolth alike. "I am Queen Erin of the Illithera sovereignty. Earth is under my protection. Vrolth forces, you have one chance to withdraw peacefully. Refuse and face the consequences." The Vrolth, arrogant from years of easy victories, attacked. It was over in minutes. Illithera weapons tore through Vrolth shields like paper. Their ships danced around Vrolth cruisers, destroying engines and weapons with surgical precision. Not a single Vrolth ship was completely destroyed. The Illithara were too precise for that. But within minutes, the entire Vrolth fleet was crippled and helpless. The Vrolth commander surrendered immediately. Taiyang watched it all happen, hardly daring to breathe. Earth was saved. Humanity would survive. And it had all happened because he'd chosen to be honest about his feelings. Queen Erin turned from the display and she was smiling. "Your people are safe, Taiyang. The Vrolth will not threaten them again." "Thank you," Taiyang said, his voice rough with emotion. "Thank you for everything." "Don't thank me yet," Erin said, moving closer. "We still have a year ahead of us. A year to discover if this connection between us is real or just the intensity of circumstance. A year to face the reality of what a relationship between us would mean." "I'm not afraid," Taiyang said. "You should be," Erin replied, but she was smiling. "I'm difficult, stubborn, and I've had 3 centuries to develop bad habits. I have responsibilities that will always compete for my attention. I'll outlive you by millennia, and that will hurt both of us. This won't be easy, Taiyang." "Nothing worth having ever is," Taiyang said. He reached out and took her hand, marveling at how natural it felt. "But I'm willing to try if you are." Erin squeezed his hand. "I am. Against all logic, against all precedent, I am willing to try." In the weeks that followed, the Illithara fleet remained near Earth, helping humanity rebuild. Technology was shared carefully with safeguards to prevent misuse. The Vrolth Empire, shocked by their defeat, agreed to a peace treaty that included reparations and a promise never to threaten Earth again. On Volanthra, Taiyang began his year of discovery. He learned Illithera customs and language. He met with Erin's advisors and began to understand the complex politics of her kingdom. Most importantly, he spent time with Erin herself, getting to know her without the pressure of imminent doom. They walked through gardens and talked about philosophy. They debated leadership styles and shared meals. They disagreed about things, argued sometimes, and learned to understand each other's perspectives. And slowly, what had started as attraction deepened into something more profound. "I was afraid," Erin admitted one evening as they watched the rings overhead. "Afraid of feeling anything again after Kellen died." I thought if I stayed isolated, if I kept everyone at arm's length, I could avoid being hurt. And now? Taeyang asked. Now I realize that avoiding pain isn't the same as being alive, Aaron said. She turned to look at him. You reminded me what it means to live, Taeyang. To feel, to hope, to risk everything for connection. I thought I'd forgotten that. But you brought it back. Taeyang pulled her close and she rested her head on his shoulder. They were from different worlds, different species, different lifespans. Nothing about this made sense on paper, but in his heart it made all the sense in the world. The first month on Valanthra was the hardest. Taeyang was used to constant action, to military discipline, to fighting for survival every single day. Now he found himself in a palace with too much time to think, and no clear purpose beyond getting to know an alien queen. He struggled with it. Every morning he woke up expecting alarms, expecting emergencies, expecting war. Instead he found peace. It was disorienting. You're restless, Queen Aaron observed one morning over breakfast. They'd fallen into a routine of eating together. A small intimacy that felt more significant than it probably should. I don't know how to do this, Taeyang admitted. How to just exist without a mission. For 5 years, every moment was about survival. Now Earth is safe and I should be happy, but I feel lost. Aaron reached across the table and touched his hand. You're not a soldier anymore, Taeyang. You're allowed to rest, to heal, to be more than what the war made you. Who am I without the war? Taeyang asked quietly. That's what this year is for, Aaron said. To discover who you really are, and to let me discover it too. So Taeyang tried. He learned to slow down, to appreciate moments instead of always rushing toward the next crisis. Aaron taught him about Illithara art, about their philosophy of patience and long-term thinking. She showed him the palace library, which contained knowledge from 1,000 worlds. My people have been recording history for 5,000 years, Aaron explained as they walked through halls lined with crystalline data storage. We've seen civilizations rise and fall. We've watched species evolve and go extinct. It teaches you perspective. Humans think in years. I think in centuries. Doesn't that make everything seem less important? Taeyang asked. If you know everything passes eventually? The opposite, Aaron said. It makes the present more precious. You humans live such short lives, but you pack so much into them. You feel everything so intensely because you know your time is limited. I envy that sometimes. They spent hours in that library talking about everything and nothing. Aaron told stories about the history she'd witnessed personally. Taeyang shared memories from Earth, from his childhood before the war, from the person he used to be. But not everything was peaceful. 3 months into the year, trouble came. Lord Vaith had been quietly building opposition to Queen Aaron's relationship with Taeyang. He didn't act openly, he was too smart for that. But he whispered to the right people, emphasized the impropriety, questioned whether their queen had been compromised by sentiment. The crisis came to a head when an assassination attempt targeted both Taeyang and Aaron during a diplomatic function. Taeyang saw the weapon first, a small device hidden in a decoration. His military instincts kicked in immediately. He tackled Aaron to the ground just as the device exploded, filling the air with some kind of gas. Don't breathe, Taeyang shouted, covering Aaron's mouth and nose with his hand while holding his own breath. Security swarmed in within seconds, neutralizing the threat. The gas turned out to be designed specifically to harm Illithara biology, while leaving humans untouched. Someone had planned to kill the queen while making it look like Taeyang was responsible. In the aftermath, Aaron was shaken but unharmed. Taeyang had saved her life. The investigation traced the plot back to a faction of conservative nobles who wanted to remove Aaron from power for breaking tradition. Lord Vaith was implicated, though he claimed ignorance. Queen Aaron didn't believe him. You've been undermining me from the start, Aaron said coldly, facing her old advisor in the throne room. Taeyang stood beside her, still protective. You claim to serve me, but you've been working against me. I serve the Illithara, Lord Vaith said stiffly. And you've compromised our security by bringing in this outsider, by breaking centuries of tradition, by letting emotion cloud your judgment. My judgment is clear, Aaron said. Her voice was ice, clearer than it's been in centuries. You're removed from your position, Vaith. You'll be tried for your role in this conspiracy. Take him away. After Vaith was led away, Aaron collapsed into Taeyang's arms. She was shaking, all her royal composure gone. He was with me for 300 years, she whispered. I trusted him. How could he do this? He was afraid, Taeyang said, holding her close. Afraid of change, afraid of losing control. Fear makes people do terrible things. You saved my life, Aaron said, pulling back to look at him. You reacted without thinking, without hesitation. You could have been hurt. I'd rather die than let anything happen to you, Taeyang said simply. Something changed between them in that moment. What had been growing slowly suddenly crystallized into certainty. They'd faced danger together and come through it. They'd worked as a team, trusted each other completely. I love you, Aaron said. The words seemed to surprise her as much as they surprised Taeyang. I didn't plan to. I tried not to, but I do. I love you, Li Taeyang. I love you too, Taeyang said and kissed her. It was their first kiss and it felt like coming home. After that, things were both easier and harder. Easier because they'd admitted their feelings, stopped pretending this was just a diplomatic arrangement. Harder because now they had to face the reality of what their relationship meant. Princess Lyra became a strong supporter. She'd watched her sister come alive again, seen the joy return to Aaron's eyes. This is good for her, Lyra told Taeyang during one of their conversations. You're good for her. She's been dead inside since Kellen and you've brought her back. But I'm going to die, Taeyang said bluntly. In 50 years, maybe 60, I'll be gone. And she'll have to watch it happen. How is that good for her? Would you rather she'd never loved at all? Lyra asked. Rather she'd stayed isolated and alone forever? Love isn't about lasting forever, Taeyang. It's about being present while you can. Still, the reality of their different lifespans haunted them both. One night, 6 months into the year, they had their worst argument. You could extend your life, Aaron said. They were in her private quarters, the discussion having started calmly and escalated. We have the technology. I could give you centuries, maybe millennia. We could face the future together. And become something I'm not? Taeyang countered. Aaron, I'm human. Mortality is part of who I am. If you change that, am I still me? You'd still be you, just longer lived. Would I? Taeyang stood pacing. I don't want to live for centuries, Aaron. I don't want to watch everyone I knew on Earth grow old and die while I stay young. I don't want to lose what makes me human just to stay with you longer. So you'd rather leave me? Aaron's voice broke. You'd rather die and make me go through that pain again? I'd rather love you truly for the time we have than become something false for the time we don't, Taeyang shouted. They stared at each other, both breathing hard. Then Aaron started crying, real tears streaming down her face. I can't do this again, she whispered. I can't watch someone I love die. I can't, Taeyang. It will destroy me. Taeyang crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. Then we'll make the most of every moment. We'll live so fully that when I'm gone, you'll have enough memories to last you 1,000 years. We'll make our time together so meaningful that no amount of time could be enough. You make it sound simple, Aaron said against his chest. It is simple, Taeyang said. Not easy, but simple. We love each other. We have right now. That's enough. Aaron held onto him tightly. Promise me something. Promise me you won't regret this, that you won't look back when you're old and wish you'd chosen differently. I promise, Taeyang said without hesitation. I could live 1,000 years alone or 50 years with you. I choose 50 years with you every single time. The rest of the year passed quickly. They traveled across Vilanthra, with Aaron showing Taeyang the wonders of her world. They met with the Ilithara people, who gradually accepted Taeyang as their queen's chosen partner. Not everyone approved, but enough did that it mattered. Taeyang also worked with Ilithara advisors to strengthen the alliance between their peoples. He became a bridge between human and Ilithara cultures, helping each understand the other. It gave him purpose again, a mission that wasn't about fighting but building. Princess Lyra taught him Ilithara diplomacy. Commander Hana helped establish medical exchanges between the two species. Even the younger Ilithara nobles, the ones who supported change, welcomed Taeyang into their circle. He found himself becoming part of Vilanthra in a way he'd never expected. It wasn't home. Earth would always be home, but it was becoming something close. As the year approached its end, Aaron and Taeyang stood together in the garden where he'd first confessed his feelings. Our year is almost over, Aaron said. According to our agreement, you could return to Earth now if you wanted. No hard feelings, no broken promises. Do you want me to go? Taeyang asked. No, Aaron said immediately. I want you to stay. I want you to stand beside me. I want to face whatever comes with you at my side, but only if that's what you want too. Taeyang took her hand. I want to stay. I want to be your partner, your friend, your love. For however long we have. Then stay, Aaron whispered. Stay with me. Always, Taeyang promised. The announcement sent shockwaves through both Illithara society and human civilization. Queen Aaron of Valanthra and Captain Li Taeyang of Earth were to be formally bonded in a ceremony that would unite their lives and their peoples. Not everyone was happy. On Valanthra, conservative factions still grumbled about broken traditions and dangerous precedents. On Earth, some humans questioned whether Taeyang had forgotten his roots, whether he'd become too alien himself. But more people celebrated. The younger Illithara saw it as a symbol of their civilization moving forward after millennia of isolation. Humans saw it as proof that they belonged in the greater galactic community, that they were worthy of respect and partnership. The ceremony was planned for 3 months after the year ended. It would combine both human and Illithara traditions, creating something new that honored both cultures. Princess Lyra took charge of the preparations with enthusiasm. She'd become close with Taeyang over the year, seeing him as the brother she'd never had. This is going to be the most important event in Illithara history, she declared. We need to make it perfect. It just needs to be real, Taeyang said. That's all that matters. It can be both, Lyra assured him. The guest list was staggering. Representatives from Earth's government, including Admiral Kim, who'd sent Taeyang on his mission. Ambassadors from dozens of alien species who wanted to witness this historic moment. The entire Illithara court, including those who opposed the Union but knew better than to boycott. Kang Mira arrived 2 weeks before the ceremony with the rest of Taeyang's old crew. She found him in the palace gardens, practicing his vows in Illithara. Captain, she said, and there was warmth in her voice now. Or should I call you Prince? Consort? Just Taeyang, he said, pulling her into a hug. It's good to see you, Mira. How's Earth? Rebuilding, Mira said. Better than it was. The Illithara technology has helped tremendously. We're actually optimistic now, which is a strange feeling after years of desperation. She studied his face. You look different. Happy. I am, Taeyang admitted. Happier than I've been in years. Maybe ever. Then I'm glad I was wrong, Mira said. When you made your choice, I thought you were throwing everything away. But you saved us by being honest. You taught us that connection matters more than survival. That's a lesson humanity needed. The day before the ceremony, Taeyang's parents arrived from Earth. They'd survived the war, barely, and he hadn't seen them in over 2 years. His mother cried when she saw him. His father just held him tight. We're so proud of you, his mother said. You saved everyone. You brought hope back. I just did what felt right, Taeyang said. That's what makes you extraordinary, his father replied. You never stopped being human, even when it would have been easier to shut yourself off. You kept your heart open. That evening, Taeyang and Aaron sat together in her chambers. Tomorrow they would stand before thousands and pledge their lives to each other. It should have felt terrifying. Instead, it felt right. Are you nervous? Aaron asked. She was leaning against him, her head on his shoulder. A little, Taeyang admitted. Not about marrying you, about everything it represents. We're changing the course of history here. That's a lot of pressure. We don't have to be symbols, Aaron said. We can just be 2 people who love each other. Can we, though? Taeyang asked. You're a queen. I'm the human who chose you over his species' survival. We're symbols whether we want to be or not. Aaron was quiet for a moment. Then let's be good symbols. Let's show everyone that love doesn't have to be practical or strategic, that sometimes the most important thing you can do is choose connection over everything else. The ceremony took place in Valanthra's Grand Plaza, under the rings that cast rainbow light across the gathered crowd. Thousands attended in person, and billions watched via holographic transmission across both human and Illithara space. Taeyang wore a combination of human formal wear and Illithara ceremonial robes. Aaron was dressed in white that seemed to glow, with its own light, her hair woven with crystals that caught and reflected the ring light above. Princess Lyra officiated, as was traditional for Illithara royalty. She spoke in both English and Illithara, her words carried to every listener. "We gather today to witness something unprecedented," Lyra began. "The union of two people from different worlds, different species, different lifespans. Some said it couldn't work, some said it shouldn't work, but love doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for approval. It simply exists, and we must choose whether to honor it or deny it." She turned to Taeyang. "Li Taeyang, you came to our world seeking salvation for your people. Instead, you found something unexpected. You found connection. You saw past the crown to the person beneath. You chose honesty over strategy, love over practicality. In doing so, you reminded us what it means to be alive. Do you still choose this path?" "I do," Taeyang said clearly. "I choose Aaron. Not the queen, not the power she represents, but her. I choose her today and every day after." Lyra turned to Aaron. "Queen Aaron, you've ruled for 3 centuries. You've seen empires rise and fall. You closed your heart after loss, thinking isolation was safety. But this human showed you that safety isn't the same as living. He reminded you that connection is worth any risk. Do you choose him, knowing that your time together will be brief by your standards?" "I do," Aaron said, and her voice was strong despite the tears on her face. "I choose Taeyang. I choose a short lifetime of real connection over an eternity of loneliness. I choose to live, to feel, to love, regardless of the pain that will come. I choose him." They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Taeyang promised to stand beside Aaron, to support her leadership, to remain human and real even in an alien world. Aaron promised to cherish every moment, to make their time together meaningful, to honor the gift of his presence in her long life. Then they exchanged tokens. Taeyang gave Aaron a simple ring made from metal salvaged from his ship, the Horizon's Edge. "Part of what brought me to you," he explained. "A reminder that the journey matters as much as the destination." Aaron gave Taeyang a crystal pendant from Valanthra's rings. "A piece of my world," she said. "So part of it will always be with you." When they kissed, sealing their bond, the crowd erupted. Illithara and humans alike celebrated, the sound carrying across the plaza and beyond. The reception lasted for hours. There was music from both worlds, food that combined human and Illithara ingredients, dancing that mixed styles. It was chaotic and beautiful and perfect. Admiral Kim found Taeyang during a quiet moment. The old man looked healthier now, less burdened. Earth's recovery had given him new life. "I sent you to save humanity," Admiral Kim said. "I never expected you to save it by falling in love." "Neither did I," Taeyang admitted. "But it worked. We're alive because I was honest, because I chose connection." "You taught us all something important," Admiral Kim said. "We'd become so focused on survival that we forgot what we were surviving for. You reminded us that humanity's strength isn't our weapons or our technology. It's our capacity to care, to connect, to choose love even when it's impractical." In the months following the ceremony, the alliance between Earth and Valanthra flourished. Technology exchanges accelerated human development by centuries. Illithara scholars came to Earth to study human culture, finding inspiration in humanity's passion and creativity. Humans traveled to Valanthra to learn wisdom and patience from a civilization that had endured for millennia. Taeyang and Aaron became the bridge between worlds. He advised her on human matters while learning Illithara governance. She showed him how to think in longer timescales, while he taught her to appreciate the intensity of the present moment. They weren't perfect. They argued about decisions, disagreed on policy, struggled with the reality of their different perspectives. But they worked through it together, finding compromise and understanding. 5 years passed, then 10. Taeyang aged, while Aaron remained. Unchanged, but it didn't matter as much as they'd feared. They'd built something real, something that transcended the physical. Earth transformed during those years. With Illithara guidance, Humanity joined the galactic community as respected partners rather than primitive newcomers. The Vralth Empire, humbled by their defeat, eventually sought genuine peace and even friendship. New cities rose on Earth, combining human and Illithara architecture. Mixed cultural centers opened where both species could learn from each other. Children of both civilizations grew up together, forging friendships that would last lifetimes. And at the center of it all stood Taiyang and Aren, proof that connection could bridge any divide. 20 years after the ceremony, they stood together on a balcony overlooking Valanthra's capital. Taiyang was 52 now, his hair touched with gray at the temples. Aren looked exactly as she had the day they met, ageless and beautiful. "Do you ever regret it?" Aren asked quietly. "You could have had a normal life on Earth, a wife your own age, children, a simple existence. Instead, you're here with me, growing old while I stay young." Taiyang turned to her and smiled. The lines around his eyes deepened, but his smile was genuine and warm. "Regret it? Aren, these 20 years with you have been worth 100 normal lifetimes. Every single day has been a gift." "But I'm not aging," Aren said. "Soon you'll be old and I'll still look like this. People will think,